when you start looking what the rest of the world can deliver when it comes to weird and wacky and fun cinema, everyone eventually reaches that period when they realize, oh man, there are a bunch of wild remakes around the world of movies that came out of Hollywood. It's so easy to point at something like Turkish Star Wars and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that they ripped off that Star Wars footage. Or did you know that there's a Bollywood version of Jaws? Look how low a budget they had. It is something that is almost too simple that you can go to. So when it was announced that there was a book about how the world remade Hollywood, global interpretations of 65 iconic films, if I just saw the title, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's such an easy entry point. But then I saw it was written by Ed Glaser. Ed Glaser is the king when it comes to talking about this kind of world cinema. He's been running sites like Neon Harbor for over 10 years. He has a YouTube series about remakes around the world. This is not a surface level reading. The guy has done research, he's spoken to people who worked on the films. He's not just an expert when it comes to remakes, but he also knows pretty much more than anyone else how genre cinema works around the world. And what he does in this book is he doesn't just highlight all the movies that you've probably heard of, like Turkish Star Wars, but he also gets into the context of them, essentially giving little cinema history lessons with each entry about the films. So you don't just get, oh, they stole Star Wars footage. You also get how the movie was made, what its budget was, what the director was thinking while he was making it, what are the other films the director made, what was his production company. And it's not just like listing all these facts, but doing it in an incredibly compelling and concise way. You just won't learn about Turkish cinema in this, even though that seems to be Ed's main area of expertise, because there's a lot of ripoffs that were made in Turkey, and Ed has all the background information on all of them. You also get little history lessons about Russian animation, because Russia did Winnie the Pooh ripoffs, more like inspirations based unofficially on the original text. You also have journeys into Indonesian cinema and Filipino cinema. You get the background of the guy who made The Bionic Boy, who was also the partner with Terry Lai, who was the sister of Joseph Lai, which led to all of those Godfrey Ho and Thomas Tang films like Robo Vampire, which is covered in this book. So, if you are interested in world cinema, even if you think that you know everything there is about the movies that are mentioned in this book, I would still recommend checking it out because there's something in here that you have never heard of before. When I was reading it, I had like a notepad beside it, taking down names of books or movies that Ed references in this and that could open up whole new worlds. Books like this are often few and far between. When it comes to reading books about movies, oftentimes what I do is I'll crack it open, I'll look through it, read a few lines, see a few titles, and if there's something that I've never heard about, or I read something that seems like investigative journalism, I will definitely pick that book up. And this is filled with it. Did you know that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that came out of South Korea was not a ripoff of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because the people who made it had never seen the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? They just knew the action figures were very popular, so they made figures that looked like it, and to sell the figures, they made an entire movie and just made up a story whole cloth. Those are the kind of stories that you're going to read in this book, so you have to check it out if that piqued your interest. Criticism-wise, this is a McFarlane book, so it is fairly expensive, and I'm not a big fan of the way that McFarlane demands that there is lengthy plot synopses for every movie that's mentioned. But I should say, like McFarlane books, they are separated, so it's more kind of like an archival thing than anything else, and the amount of information and just engaging writing is way more than just the plot synopsis, which has fooled me before McFarlane books, where it's just mostly that. This is the kind of book that is made for a very niche audience, and if you've made it this far into the video, you are probably that audience, so go pick it up. You can get it directly from McFarlane. And if world cinema interests you, I do a weekly podcast with Will Sloan called The Important Cinema Club. Subscribe to it below, and I'll see you in the next video.